Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who podcast. My name is Chris.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Brian.
And today we're talking about Mistborn, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is part 4.
Chapters 7 and 8.
Chapters
Nice.
7
Wow,
and 8.
look at that.
Awesome.
It's amazing. It really is. So last time we talked about 5 and 6. Actually, quite a bit happened. We had a lot happen with, Kelsier breaking into House Venture, stealing the ATM. We had some exposition and some character building around just like the planning of the job.
So the dynamic of the crew.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited to jump into 7 and 8 and just kind of see where those things went.
Okay. Should we do some quick summaries?
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
So chapter 7, Marsh, who is Kelsier's brother, and Kelsier talk about old times. They don't necessarily talk about the details of the job yet, but Kelsier convinces Marsh to come back again and listen to the job. As Marsh moves to leave, Kelsier notices Vin is eavesdropping. He takes Vin out for her first night of training, giving Vin her mist cloak. Kelsier teaches her about the 8 basic metals, and it ends with them. The chapter ends with them at the Luthadel city wall. Let's see. Chapter 8, Vin and Kelsier go over the Luthadel walls, walking out into the night wilderness. Vin notices something following them, and Kelsier shows her that it was a mist wraith. Kelsier takes her to the main road where they meet up with Sazed, who is waiting for them with a carriage. He takes them to Felice. On the way, Kelsier offers Vin the 3,000 boxings that I think Cayman got that Kelsier ended up with.
Basically, like if you're not sold, you can leave at any time, and here's some money to help you make it.
Right. He offers that and says, you can leave the crew if you don't believe that I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
She takes the boxings but remains on the crew because she wants to see how things turn out. They arrive at Lord Reno's estate. So Lord Reno is the one that I think was mentioned previously as the imposter. And Kelsier and Reno talk in private briefly. Vin and Sazed talk briefly, with Sazed offering to tell Vin about some of the religions of the past without necessarily using those words. Reno suggests that Vin can play the part of Reno's daughter the daughter of a favorite cousin to Reno, and that he's introducing her to the other noble houses as a ploy to strengthen House Reno.
Sure.
So she has a part to play now, and they're kind of starting to build her character a little bit more.
Because I think the initial plan was for the crew to have somebody like serve as like the kind of like the heir.
Yeah.
Right.
And she wasn't going to be convincing in that role. So whatever it was that was impersonating Reno was like, well, let's do this instead.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
So, because she is a little bit... She wouldn't know all the...
she's young, she's awkward, she not
wouldn't know all the kind of courtly
and all those things,
behaviors and things that would happen at these different events within the great houses.
So the first thing that really kind of struck me was that, like, Kelsier just like, he's like, here, Vin, have a Mistborn cloak.
Yeah.
In other stories, it's like that would be like a rite of passage. It's like when you get to this point in your training, then you get the cool clothes. But here it's just like, no, it's just given. It's just a cloak. And as we read on, we find a little bit more about that. That if like the guards see somebody in a Mistborn cloak out at night, they're just like, oh.
Well, I think the assumption is that there are probably some noblemen that right now,
for training,
or at least
the Mistborn are
with a noble house,
right? That, most of the Mistborn are from a noble house, and
well, I mean, there's like to have a Mistborn be a ska who's just running rogue is almost unheard of,
right?
Based on what we're told. So yeah, I like that's a thing. But this is where we kind of talk about like the Mistborn. So they're descendants of the only men who remained faithful to the Lord Ruler during the days before his ascension.
Yep.
And the interesting thing in the book is ascension is capitalized. Meaning that it's like a specific event or like something almost revered, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we kind of talked about this a little bit last episode, but there's some other legends that say that the Mistborn are something beyond even the Lord Ruler's power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's, at this point, not a clear explanation of their origins or where they came from or anything like that, but it's still kind of interesting to see those different viewpoints and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So one thing I really liked about how this was all organized was, as a numbers guy, as someone who really likes to dig into problems, this was the first time that we really got an inside look on how all of the allomancy works.
Mm-hmm. The 8 metals and
Yep.
There's kind of
like
4 pairings of metals really that he talks through. And then there's a 5th pairing of metals, and then ATM's the 11th metal.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
And specifically, like, how you push versus pull, and how, I kind of see it as, like if you've played RPG games on any sort of game, like PlayStation or Xbox, I kind of picture it as like a magic meter that's up at the top that, like, decreases as you go along after you consume the metals originally.
Yeah, right.
But I really like the fact that, Brandon Sanderson does a good job of outlining, make sure to digest all the metals before you go to sleep, or make sure that you ingest the right proportion of metals, because I have a feeling that at some point that's going to become very important.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, and it's something I haven't thought of, but now that you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I bet that's going to come back to bite somebody.
Yep.
Probably Vin.
Maybe.
Don't say it, Chip.
I haven't.
Don't say
it. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
so. But I like the idea of the pushing and pulling, and it's not necessarily always a physical pushing and pulling. It can be pushing or pulling on emotions, or it could be pushing and pulling on some physical object as well. So I think, and knowing that the Mistborn can use all of the metals, but the Mistings, they can use one pairing of metals.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it's kind of interesting when they assemble this crew and they talk about the smoker, clubs, and how, I think it was copper and, is it?
The alloy of it.
Tin, no, it's tin and pewter. It's copper and bronze, maybe?
Copper and bronze.
If I burned some pewter, I'd probably be able to remember.
Yeah, you probably could. Well,
so copper.
And you could probably take a beating and still.
Yeah, that too.
So bronze lets you sense when someone is using allomancy nearby. Yes. Copper is a partner to bronze, and it kind of like shields allomancy from anyone who's using bronze.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting how you kind of have these individual experts in different pairings of metals, but then you have Vin and Kelsier who can use all of them, but maybe not to the expertise that the individual Mistings can. So, the fact that he's got her, I can't remember if it's these chapters, but, he teaches her kind of at a high level, kind of across all of them, but then he encourages her to work with kind of each of these other experts along the way, too, to become... more knowledgeable in using specific pairings of metals.
And how to trust other people, too. Like, Clubs, for example, is a smoker. Like, he said, you don't have to worry about that as much because your job is more or less to delegate and fill in the gaps. You just need to rely on the people who are Mistings to do their job and trust them. Which I like the fact that the character actually is building trust the entire time, supposedly.
So, because, for somebody who's very untrusting of any of this that's going on, and the fact that, Kelsier basically offered her all this money that if you don't trust us,
you can leave.
Here's some money and you can leave.
And a lot of money, too.
So, going back, we kind of talked about how, guards would not necessarily stop somebody in a Mistborn cloak. They would just kind of, keep their distance. Because it's not uncommon for, a Mistborn to be out at night.
Yeah.
And they made the comment that, Mistborn identities were pretty closely guarded house secrets. Most have 2 lives where they're
they might have a public
aristocrat
life
versus this skulker in the shadows at night. So they're afforded some protection as long as they've got those.
Yeah, they've got some anonymity almost. Within the mists at night. So.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of a cool touch. So.
But it also makes, because as you kind of meet some of these different aristocrats, you don't know who the other Mistborn are.
True.
Right.
And
how many there are.
Right.
To Kelsier's, to Kelsier's point before, he talked about starting a house war. There's no better way than wearing a Mistborn cloak and then like fighting some people and then disappearing because no one knows who you are.
Breaking into House Venture and prior chapter and kind of just stirring things up. And then, because that has some ramifications down in subsequent chapters as well.
Yeah, you said that last time. That's really cool.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was kind of really neat was when Vin first burns tin. She's able to look up and actually see stars, and she doesn't know what they are. And from Kelsier's perspective, he knows what they are, and he kind of explains it, and he makes the comment that the Lord Ruler has tried hard to suppress the memories of the way things used to be. So those kind of like almost like nuances and like pieces of detail are really neat to me, because it makes the world seem more tangible and more real. So those things, when I read those, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's really cool. I like that.
It also makes it feel like the Lord Ruler is really trying to control this population because is there an inherent fear of a rebellion or an uprising from the Ska vastly outnumber the aristocratic society, and they all roll up to the Lord Ruler, but is he trying to oppress the Ska for a reason?
Right.
And it happens later on when Vin makes the comment about like brown leaves on trees and plants, and Kelsier is like, well, they should be green. And it's like it's like a completely foreign concept to her.
That's
another
and it's another seed that's planted because that carries forward too, where the more she becomes, this Reno's the daughter of a cousin and starts to play this part, then she starts to really, doesn't necessarily embrace noble life, but she starts to become more aware of kind of these different things that she sees. And and the gardens actually, there's a whole part of a chapter that they cover the gardens and what they should be and what they look like, what trees could look like. And
one thing I really kind of liked with this section in particular is, when Star Wars came out, there was a lot of criticism from some people about how
Star Wars.
Which Star Wars?
We're talking about, I suppose, The Force Awakens.
Okay.
Where say like Rey was able to, like, just amass all of the Jedi powers immediately and was able to just start being a Jedi.
Kylo Ren.
Right. Yeah. But the fact that when Vin was trying to dismount from the wall, everything goes completely wonky.
Yeah.
I like the fact that
she became very disoriented, and
she is not good. Like, she's not a phenom at it immediately.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I feel is reasonable.
And it's real.
Well, it grounds it in reality, because if this was you would not stick the landing.
No. Heck no.
No. So yeah, I totally get that. It to carry on the Star Wars reference, it's like in Empire Strikes Back when Luke's on Dagobah with Yoda and he tries to lift the X-Wing and he fails.
Yeah.
Same type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But would Baby Yoda be able to lift the X-Wing?
Oh, yeah.
You think so? Would he eat a frog before or after lifting the X-Wing?
Both.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
So going back to the book, I mean, I love talking Star Wars too, but do we remember? I know that Marsh has met Vin before, but Vin does not remember meeting Marsh. Didn't that come up in this one where she came and brought her to Marsh's storefront or something, and Marsh
I don't remember reading that.
Don't you remember that? Okay.
No.
I got some sort of sense of familiarity,
and maybe that
but I don't think
comes out a little bit later. But but Marsh has actually met Vin before, but Vin does not remember meeting Marsh. But Marsh has been keeping an eye on her and informed Doxson and Kelsier about Vin.
One of my other favorite parts, especially when Vin confronts Kelsier about Marsh, is, did he beat you as the little brother?
Yeah.
Right.
There was a lot of, it really shows a troubled youth, and it really shows just like the character.
That was something I mean, it kind of brings attention to like just the type of upbringing she had.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because Kelsier mentions earlier that she doesn't sit, she crouches. She doesn't walk, she prowls. Even when she's sitting in the open, she tries to hide.
Yep.
And so that coupled with like her assumptions, like, oh, well, he must have beaten you, or oh, you stopped him. If he didn't beat you, you stopped him. It wasn't that he didn't want to, or that he didn't. It was just like you figured out a way to stop that from happening. Yeah. So it really kind of speaks to kind of that troubled upbringing, and it was one of those where it's just like, oh, geez.
But that shows why she's not trusting. She doesn't trust anyone. Yeah. Like, again, it gives a good backstory, and also maybe a good foreshadowing. Again, not having read forward, but like...
And there's some more layers of that come out in subsequent chapters. But, knowing that her... So I think they've already talked that her father must have been somebody in power if... He fathered a misting,
right,
or Mistborn.
Yeah,
but we didn't know much about her mother, and all she has is the earring, I think, from her mother. So,
which, by the way, that was another one of those caveats where it's like if the piercing goes through the body, it's fine for allomancy. But I like the fact that I wondered about the Steel Inquisitors when they have the spikes through their head. Eyes, it's like, well, how do you not just like take advantage of that? Because it's part of the person you can't.
Right. There's a rule there.
That was a good rule I had put in place.
Yeah.
Another a question I had as I was reading through this, like, so they make a point to say that the Lord Rulers tried to wipe out memories of how things were. So how is Kelsier aware of like the stars and that leaves used to be green and things like that?
Good point.
If this has been like wiped from general knowledge, why does he know about them? Question that I'm sure is going to be resolved later, but just as I was reading, I was like, huh. So why does he know about this if nobody else does? The cool thing, because they eventually land at like Lord Reno's manor, and Vin. I think this is like one of those chapters where it's like the perspective of Vin, and she's aware of how like immaculate. Like the staircases are scrubbed,
it's clean,
and like initially she's like, oh, they have to have ska slaves to be doing these things, and like inside is like immaculate, like to the point where she's never seen anything like it, and she's like, people have to be cleaning this, like, and she comes to the realization that in order for this to be legitimate, Lord Reno has to have these things in place to be believed and taken seriously. But she also makes the comment or the realization later that all the ska in the house seem to be happy and well adjusted and like pleased to be there
and well taken care of
and well taken care of. So those are just kind of some interesting things that I think speak to not only Kelsier, because he's ultimately behind this, but also to Vin and kind of like her realization that maybe this guy is not as bad as some of the other men
that he seems well intended for what he's doing. So.
And I think she says to what's his name,
Shazad.
Yeah,
she's like he really is a good man, isn't he? And it's like, oh.
And Sazad's an interesting character that we'll get to know here a little bit more, but
I really like him.
There's more to him, and is he a keeper? Is that what they called him?
Maybe.
I can't remember if they mentioned that yet, but he's basically a keeper of knowledge, so he's got like all these religions and all these customs that he just knows all this stuff, so he's able to teach Vin different, behaviors and things that she should know, trying to play the part of a nobleman's daughter or cousin's daughter, or whatever she is. But Sazad's a pretty interesting character.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited to see where this goes.
I am too.
I mean, you already know because you're reading ahead.
I know, but I don't have little kids.
Yeah.
And right now, my life affords me a little more time to read.
Well, I mean, there you go. And I think it's huge that this last chapter really ends on her realizing that maybe Kelsier is not an asshole.
Yeah.
Well, and like he kind of understands that he's maybe a little bit crazy, and she kind of comes to accept it.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that his plan is crazy, but all these crew members are kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe we've got a shot here. Nobody's really pushed back and said no. Other than, I think Marsh's basically kind of said, well, that's stupid, but he's going to come around.
Even Marsh came around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So
No, I'm really liking where this is going. I'm excited to see where things go from here.
And I think Sanderson, from a writing standpoint or a narrative standpoint, he's doing a good job at balancing the world building and the character development and the plotting, so that it all kind of is interwoven together. It doesn't get too focused on the world building to where you kind of make your character secondary, which other writers that we've read have they fall into that trap too, where you spend too much time talking about food or the world or just different things about it, or you spend too much time developing characters but you don't know the world that they live in. But I feel like he's struck a good balance here so far, at least halfway or third of the way through the first book. So.
Yeah. Wow. So we're probably going to continue on the trajectory of 2, maybe 3 chapters per episode.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't already and you like what you've been watching, click on down there to the subscribe button. We would love to have you as a regular viewer. Please also leverage the comment section. If you have questions or you have comments or you have observations that maybe we didn't catch, we would love to hear them. So please write down there, do that. And then we will say that you can follow us on Instagram. Instant media. No, social media.
We should start Instagram. That might
Boy,
be
that would be really good.
Let's do Instagram. Yeah.
Instant gramification.
Yeah.
You know what? You guys are all jerks. Social media. TDW Podcast. That's Instagram. That's Twitter. And then Facebook.com/TDW Podcast. Our website does have links to our videos. It also has a blog that we update. So please keep in touch. Follow us. Keep an eye on what we're doing for content. We would love to engage with you. So we will see you next week with chapters 9 plus. Is that fair?
9, 10, and
possibly 11?
Yeah. Anyway. And then lastly, we have a link in the description which you can get this book. It gives us a small kickback if you do that. Helps us out, get better equipment, increase production quality, things like that. So if you don't have the book and you would like to get it, we invite you to do that. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you next week.
Allons-y.